if we're really one human family, then it doesn't matter where she comes from. She is one of us, and she's our sister, and she's in a tough place. So this is a story about a time that we lived in Rwanda when there was relative peace there. We were young then, young, thin, and beautiful, and we were the only non-Africans living there. There had been a horrible road accident on the road between Kigali and Butare. There was the ambassador from Zaire who was traveling in his Mercedes. He was heading out to one of the major airports, whether it was in Uganda, I think, or perhaps Nairobi. The roads there are awful and people drive like maniacs, really. So the car ended up hitting a tree, and it was one of those accidents where the driver was killed, the ambassador was pinned in his car, was badly injured, and was likely to die. Instant crowd the minute something happens. You think that it's a rural country, but there's like 100 people in just a few seconds. When they saw that there was no immediate response from any authorities and that the person was really and truly totally helpless, they took his watch, they took his shoes, they took anything of value and left him there. How could that happen? Like, what's really going on here? We took the opportunity of our next trip to that part of the country just to, we were sitting in a village, we were just talking with people, and we said, were any of you there when this happened? Oh, yeah, they said, a lot of us were there, and then people were speaking up. They wanted to let us know what they experienced, what they saw, what happened. They were still pretty buzzed up about it because it was a big thing that had happened. Those kinds of exciting things don't happen often. Then our next question was, who would have had to have been in that car for you to help them rather than to take what was valuable and leave them? Well, they didn't have to think very long, and they said, well, would have had to be someone from around here. He wasn't from around here. Well then, so the next question is, who is one of us? Who's from around here? And when we asked that question, they jumped up and said, come with us, we'll show you. So we stood up and we got to a high place, and they said, see, you can just look there, right as far as you can see there, and to the edge of that hill, to the edge of that house, that's around here. And everybody else who's not from around here is from around there. So that led very naturally into a conversation about what does that mean? Who is really one of us when we live in a world where there's really only one human family, where everybody's brothers and sisters? And surprisingly, it was an idea that actually made sense, and people latched onto very easily and naturally and started to talk about that. If this really is that kind of a world, do we believe that it is that kind of the world? And if it is, then how would it change what we do? We went back to our home in Butare, and many months passed, and then one day there was a knock on our door, and standing before us was this most amazingly grubby young man. He was just black from head to foot, and we could just see the truck that he'd been riding on disappearing down the street, and it was full of sacks of potatoes that they'd been bringing to market, and he'd been riding on top of it. And so he had a really grubby piece of paper in his hand, and on it it's just simply said, Mr. White Man, Dr. Bopp, would you come to visit us because we have something that we want to talk to you about? You know, we never really got a summons like this before, and I knew that the summons meant me just as well, since I was Mr. Dr. White Man Bopp. By the time we got there, they knew we were coming because they could holler faster than we could walk. And so people were already gathered, and they had somebody there who spoke the best amount of French that they had in the area, and they sat us down, and you could see that people were really kind of excited. You know, there was something going on, and there was something they couldn't wait to talk about. And they started out kind of calmly enough. They said, well, you remember it's been raining really hard these last few weeks, And we said, yeah. In fact, you could see the clouds start to pile up because it was rainy season in Rwanda. And they said, well, you know what happens in the rain. Sometimes our houses get washed away. They're just made out of mud and sticks. Yeah, sure, we know. Well, there's this woman that lives in our area here. She's not one of us. She comes from some other place. But she married somebody from around here. But now she's a widow. The last time it rained really hard, her house just got washed away. So, well, we decided that we'd rebuild her house. So on Saturday, for our community service, we all got up and we rebuilt her house. And then we thought, you know, when it rains like that and your house washes away, chances are all your beans are going to be wet too. Beans are the staple food there. If you don't have beans, you die. Well, surely all of us have got a little bit that we could spare, and if we could put it all together, it would make a difference. So we went home and we did that. And then later that night we were sitting and we were thinking, you know, I wonder if our kids go to school. I bet they don't. So, you know, we're not rich. None of us are rich, but we found enough money to send our kids to school. There was kind of a little pause, and they're all sitting there, and then suddenly one of them smiled, a really big smile, and said, "Did we do it right?"